Hi, welcome to Deep End. My name doesn't matter. Let's dive in. So on Sunday, we talked just a little bit about spiritual gifts. One of the things that was mentioned was that gifts are not roles. For example, you're not gifted in nurserying. That's not a gift. Spiritual gifts are tools by which you accomplish the roles you serve in and the roles you play in. In other words, you should be serving regardless of whether or not you have a spiritual gift that fits the role. What came to mind was Romans chapter 12, verses 3 through 8 here. It says, "For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned." So right here from the beginning, we see God has assigned these measures of faith, or this idea that there is a connection between God's assignment for you and how you should think of yourself. Then in verse 4, "For as in one body we have many members, and the members do not all have the same function, so we, though many, are one in Christ, and individually members of one another, having gifts that differ according to the grace given to us. Let us use them, if prophecy in proportion to our faith, if service in our serving, the one who teaches in his teaching, the one who exhorts in his exhortation, the one who contributes in generosity, the one who leads with zeal, the one who does acts of mercy with cheerfulness." So Paul very clearly lines out here that you are all given different gifts, and everybody's given these different spiritual gifts. The reality is that we sometimes conflate those gifts with roles, such as we think a person who has compassion and discernment may not be able to teach a class or to walk people through a discipleship process. But the reality is that we're all called to disciple each other. We're all called to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ on this earth. The gifts we're given are the tools by which we do that. So some of the greatest teachers I've ever had, some of the people who I learned the most from, were not gifted in the area of teaching or proclamation, but were gifted in the area of compassion or in discernment, or even sometimes in mercy. And what would happen is I'd see these men strive to teach the Bible, but more than that, I'd see them grant great compassion to other people. And those men would thereby teach me what it meant to be a Christian. You are given a gift. Every Christian is given gifts. The Bible's really clear about that, that God gives everyone gifts. So the question is not whether or not you're given a gift, but rather whether or not you are using the gift that you are given in the roles that you have already been placed in. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 11, when he says, "Whoever speaks as one who speaks the oracles of God, and whoever serves as one who serves by the strength that God supplies." You see, what he's getting at is the idea that you have gifts that are to be used in areas where you already are serving. God gives each of us gifts, and all of those gifts are to be used creatively. Remember, we serve a infinitely creative God who can find ways to use giftings that don't seem to fit roles. He will always find a way to use those who are willing to be used for his kingdom. So one great truth to grab hold of is that God not only gives us gifts, but he empowers us to use them. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, he speaks about the various gifts that people are given, and then in verse 11 he says, "All of these are empowered by one and the same Spirit, who apportions to each one individually as he wills." So take great joy in the fact that God has deemed that you have a gift, that he has decided that you are going to be empowered with that gift, and that he apportions to you the ability to use that gift at his will. So with that in mind, go get to work. Thanks for joining me in Deep End.